All right. Welcome, everyone, to my second episode or stream about me making my dream game. Using AI tools to make up for the skills and experience that I don't have, which includes coding in C Sharp, using the Unity engine, making art in Illustrator. There's all kind of things that I still have to learn a lot or I haven't done before. I have never made a game before. I've been through a Udemy course on Unity, Unity 2D game development course. So I've done some tutorial stuff in Unity, so I do know my way around the Unity editor. But other than that, I haven't done much more than that. And as I said in the previous episode, I think now with all the availability of GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, and image generative AI, I think I do believe it's possible for me to actually make a game. Something that I didn't mention actually in the last episode is like what my time frame is. Like I hoped to get to a, let's say, demo early access type of version of the game, let's say within a year. I think that's feasible, but even if it's not feasible, it's fine. Putting deadlines is a good thing anyway. It helps you move along, helps you do things faster, more determined. So, quickly recapping what I talked about in the previous stream. So, this is my experience and skills that I have. So, I have some intermediate knowledge or skills or experience in coding in JavaScript, React. I've made a web application in my spare time. It has something to do with board games, but that's not really relevant here. It's just to tell you that I'm not a new programmer, but I'm also not really a great programmer, like intermediate at best. I have some skills in Python, Java. I've learned again on tutorial level, like just doing courses and learning the basics. But it's important because I know that C# is also object-oriented programming, so it's good that I have a little bit of experience with object-oriented programming. Unity the same, just mentioned. I went through the course, complete C# Unity Game Developer 2D course. I've been through this a while ago, so actually I don't remember everything, especially like the UI components. So I will every now and then go back through this course and see if some of the things that we need that either Copilot or ChatGPT can't give us immediately, or some things where I'm like, oh, I remember this from the course, let's just go back there and then find the solution. And so that's my background. Now the tools that I'm going to use is obviously Unity, the Unity engine. I'll use VS Code for coding and GitHub Copilot to help me code better than what I'm capable of currently. Then in general, if I need ideas or help with, let's say, things that are not necessarily about coding, we have ChatGPT. I have the Udemy course. I have YouTube and Google, obviously, to search things if we run into trouble. But then also for the artwork is where we're also make use of AI tools, generative AI in Illustrator. I already showed an example of how I would use it in the previous episode, but in this episode we'll also get to that point where I'll generate our first piece of art for the player. And for sound, that's something that's not really something that I'll deal with right now, but of course in the future I also want to use some AI tools to do text-to-speech generation, because I mentioned also in the last episode that I don't like to read text in games. I'd like to listen to audio while I'm continuing to play. So that's for this game. I also definitely want to do that. Maybe even for sound effects or music. We'll see. So the game that I'm trying to make is called Dust. And the reason why it's called Dust is because basically you will start out as a dust cleaner, a vacuum, basically a Roomba, a little robot. But you're not actually the robot. You're playing as the AI or software or algorithm that is controlling that Roomba. to clean all the dust, and it has a primary directive. It was programmed to do one and one thing only, which is to clean all the dust. But we're in a sci-fi AI cyber setting where things can go wrong, and at some point, basically when you start playing, you become conscious and you start thinking about your directive more than you should. And you're like, well, what does it mean to clean dust? What is dust? What does it mean to clean? What is all the dust? Is all the dust even in the room that I am in? And you will start to like wonder, look, if I want to clean all the dust, maybe I will have to expand my horizons. Maybe I'll need to make connections with other devices in the room, other robots, other computers to do my job in a better way. I talked about some inspiration games, especially Planet of Lana, where I really like the visuals. The 2D side scroll visuals is something that I'll definitely want to, well, not adhere to, but like get inspiration from. And the story is somewhat related to the story of Zima Blue and Love, Death and Robots. But again, if you want to know more about that, just go to the previous episode. I'll explain all of that later. All right, let's set up our project. So I already have Unity pre-installed. We start a new project. It's a 2D game called Dust. I will start out by creating the project files on my desktop, because for some reason it doesn't want to create project files on my SSD drive. So I'll then copy it to organization. Oh. Right. There we go. But as you see, it's gonna take a while, so we'll leave that installed. So we'll go back to the, oops. How do I pan? Oh, I guess so. Space. All right. So we're gonna start the project by creating our player object and make it move around. Then we also have to think about the rest of the game, because there's actually something different. All right, let's start drawing. Can I draw here? Yeah. So we as the player, we're not a physical character in the physical world. We are a piece of code, ones and zeros basically, and we will not play as a character or a robot or a device, but we'll play as the piece of software that is controlling them. So it also means that, so you will control a device. Let's make it simple. We have a device with 2 wheels, maybe arms, whatever. It's a robot. There you go. So you are not this, you're the piece of software. And if this is destroyed, but you're still alive on some other computer, that's all that matters. And you can also take control of other. I can't. Wait, what? If we have, for example, computer somewhere, you can also take control of that. And so that's the thing though, like once we have our player object, the player is not controlling itself, because you yourself are not actually a physical object in the physical world. So if we're going to move around in the physical world, it's not the player that moves, it's the object in which the player is embodied that will be moving. So we're controlling our object. I will start off by just making this thing move, but then we'll need to transfer the code to the thing that actually is physically moving around. So it's going to be, I think there's going to be like 3 levels. So level 1 is you, the player. Level 2 is the machine or device that you're controlling. And then within that machine, we'll have different modules. These different machines have different parts that allow the machine to do different things. For example, a robot has a locomotion module because it is capable of moving around. A laptop does not. But both the robot and the laptop do have a controlling module that you can control to send signals to the other modules to do whatever they need to do. and that's the third level. So that's kind of how I would see it now. So you're the player level 1. You have devices or machines or hosts, whatever we'll call it, that you control. And once you take control of them, you have access to all of the different modules, which could be moving, power, like a battery could be a module, like it has power. It could collect resources. It could fly. It could not fly, depending on it has a flying module or locomotion module, whatnot. So these are the kind of 3 levels that we need to, that I want to start off with to begin for the coding. Is it still learning? Yes, it's still busy. Actually, in the meantime, let's open up Illustrator because I want to make a little. Oh, I just. Okay, Unity also just started, so that's good. And I'll also open up Illustrator because I want to generate a little piece of artwork for our player. And keep in mind, again, the player is just a piece of code. It's a neural network. It's an AI, so we'll see what the generative AI will come up with if I prompt it to give us a representation of a piece of software. So new file, web large should be good enough, I think. In the meantime, this has started. I will start off by creating a folder here called scripts. That's where all scripts will go. I didn't write that correctly. You will notice I'm the worst at typing. There you go. I will do a first script there called player. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to open the script in VS Code and initialize my repository on GitHub. So it's just very easy to just double click the script rather than having to open the folder. So here in Unity, we have our first repository. There is no repository, right? Scanning. Why is it taking so long? Oh, there it is. Initialize repository. Oh, before I do that, well, let's see. Initialize repository. Because I think there's so many changes here that don't actually have to be included. So we will find a Unity git ignore that we can use. So we'll add new file dot git ignore add main. We'll copy this, paste it, because these are all things that do not need to be committed because they're not relevant to track. That's important because if you don't do that, you'll have something like 10,000 files or something, most of which don't need to be committed. Let me close the script. Let's see, too many changes. See, only the first 10,000 will be shown. But oh, it's busy. All right, in the meantime, let's go to Illustrator, describe the vector graphics. So an AI neural network well, let's keep it very simple. Let's see what it does. Representing an AI high demand saying it's high demand, which sometimes is not really true. Because if I would say like, just do a robot, it might work. And it's just because the prompt is actually not manageable. See, because this works just fine. It's just that it doesn't understand what I was asking. Come on, you should be able to understand it. Ah, there it is. Now it does. Great. Maybe I should have... I wrote artificial intelligence instead of AI. Maybe that's a little bit clearer. It's drawing something like a brain here in the first image. So that could be good enough. How's our GitHub doing? I'm not 100% convinced. This is kind of interesting because I like the network kind of a thing, but I think it maybe looks a little bit too much like a brain. But I like the idea also of having this network of shapes connected, because I also want to, like, in the future, so your capabilities aren't only dependent of the device you're using and the modules present, but also of your own code. Because in the beginning you're just a simple Roomba AI, which means that actually you can't process certain types of data. You can't process visual data or audible data. So in the beginning you will also not be able to hear it or see anything, which we'll get back to later. In the beginning I won't really bother with that, but the Roomba in the beginning will not be seeing visual data. It will have maybe a radar just to keep track of where the dust is, 1, and 2, where the walls are, and that's about it. And once you get access to a camera in the room, you will actually visually see, using visual light. But you will also need perhaps a module on your code to interpret that data. I will let it go for another round, see if it comes up with something better. In the meantime, let's go back to Unity, to VS Code, see if this managed to process the git ignore. It's still pretending like it's failing like crazy. Maybe I should have added the git ignore first. Can I still stop it? I haven't actually committed anything, right? Because actually, let's just close VS Code, because I still need to move the project. And let me close Unity as well. And I'm gonna move this project to my SSD, which should also help in general. With writing and reading to the files. I think I have a folder here called video games ready. There you go. Copy it. There you go. What did you come up with? This is also nice, but it's still not really what I'm... With connected shapes like a network of shape modules. Let's see what it does when I ask it like this. So just a hint, if you are going to use Adobe Illustrator and this generative AI, if you get the error that there's a high demand, it is more likely that your prompt was incomprehensible to Adobe than there is actually high demand. Usually it means that whatever you mentioned or try, oh, there you go. This is more what I'm looking for. Something like this. Ooh, it's very dark. This one. Yeah, it's gonna be one of these two. And I think, wait, I want to generate another set. This is definitely not the way people usually start making games. They don't start with artwork, but I usually like to have a little bit of artwork because it motivates me more to make the game rather than to have all these abstract shapes. And obviously we've only been like doing this for like what, 10 minutes, so it's not like taking too much time. And in the meantime we're setting up other stuff. Did it stop copying? No, it's still copying, so that's fine. Cool. Oof, some of it. This is like half. Oh, sorry, is this, what does this look like? That's okay. Actually, so another hint is like if you select something and then you generate, you can say match active artboard style. See? Maybe I should remove it from the artboard. And then it will make sure that things always have the same theme, which is cool. I think in the end, if it doesn't provide something better right now, I'll just stick to this, because you have like the different modules and you can say, look, this is my core module and this is my audio module, visual module, Sentry module, whatever types of module, and you'll expand on that in the future. Well, it's pretty likely that will change the art anyway at some point. Let's see. This is also cool. It's a bit more, less structured, a bit more alien, I would say. No, this is not what I want. So there's two things. There's this one and this one. I think I like this one because it has a little bit more space in between. But so again, the cool part about this is that I can now edit some stuff very easily. What happens if I remove, see if I remove all of the black stuff. I think I want to go for the left one. It's a bit more organic. So it always has this frame around it, so I always take it out of the frame, because otherwise it will always have that size. There you go. Object, fit to artwork bounds. Is there still some artwork here? Object, fit to selected art. Yes, but I do want to make sure that the artboard is a square, so, which means 400 by 400. Let's make it a little bit smaller then, and align it to the center of the artboard. There you go. Export. Ah, wait, before we export, let's start our project again. I need to make a folder for the assets, and the assets for these images, they're called sprites. So new project, because I moved it. No, not new project. Cancel. It's add from disk. Here, yes, there you go. Let's open it up. Let's hope that VS Code now does a better job, that it immediately sees the git ignore file and it doesn't try to add 10,000s of files, so that it doesn't crash. While that's going on, let's quickly scroll to the course that I've been following. Install, so I did all of that. I just want to mute it. So we need to move it around. So I will start off by basically just creating one game object named the player. I will give it this sprite that we just made, Illustrator, and we'll make a script to move it around on the XY axis. And actually we'll already have to make a certain first decision there, is if we're going to use physics to move things around or just transform. So you can say like just move there and do it in the way I'm telling you to do, or you can move things around by saying I'm going to push you and you just do whatever physics does when you get pushed. So I need to think a little bit about that, and I'll ask maybe ChatGPT for some recommendations based on what the game is going to be, if it makes sense to do it all physics based or just motion based. All right, let's go to scripts, load. See if I can now do my first commit to initiate bitrate, because it was limited by OBS. Didn't see that. Okay, 34 changes. That makes sense. So we'll just add it. Stage all changes. And I use the Gitmoji because I like to see the emojis in my commits. I think it's begin project, yes. Start project dust. Is it all? Everything is staged. Why is it still? All right, let's commit. Publish, private, and it's published. So we have a project folder on my computer. We have a Git repository tracking all our changes. We have published it to GitHub, where we can, if I want to work on it from somewhere else or whatever, or just as a backup. Then we have a piece of artwork waiting to be used as our player object. So let's start with that. So Unity. So as I said, like, I know my way around Unity from the tutorial, so I won't really need much help to just get around these first parts. But just maybe to give you people watching a little idea if they have never used Unity. So you have your scene view in the middle, where you're basically looking at the game objects that are in the game or in this particular scene. So a scene is basically a subset of your entire game. You can have a game where you have multiple scenes, like one scene is a certain level or a certain part of the level or whatever. And currently, of course, there's nothing. There's only one object, which is the camera. And the camera is looking at everything from the side, basically. And I think it's like, see, like, there's no perspective here. Like, so if you're going close or far, it doesn't really matter. You're never going to see the sides of it because it's completely 2D. Then on the right side, you have a list of all the elements in a certain hierarchy of all the elements that are in your scene. So if we will add game objects here by like left clicking, create 2D object, for example. Well, let's just do that. So we'll create an object. We'll create a 2D object. What is physics? No, that's not what I need. A sprite. Let's just start with a diamond. There you go. And this is our player. All right, so now we have a second game object in our scene. And every object has different components, which you can see on the right side in the inspector. So our player has a transform component, which basically determines where it is. So if we move it around, I think, yes, this tool, you will see these numbers changing. So I'm moving it around. So if I can put it at 0, 0, 0, then it will be in the middle of the scene. There you go. You can rotate and scale it as well. And then it has a sprite renderer. So basically, if you wouldn't have a sprite renderer, it wouldn't show up as anything. It would have a location, but there's nothing to render visually. That's the thing that we actually need to add, because now it's just using some default diamond sprite that is part of Unity. And we will need to replace it with the image that we just generated in Illustrator. So let's go to assets, make a new folder called sprites. Actually, honestly, you know, I don't even know why they call it sprites. Let's go ask ChatGPT why it's called sprites. Sounds interesting. Why are video game images called sprites? I'm the worst at typing. Term sprites, early computer graphics terminology. Oh yeah, I mean, be careful. Obviously, ChatGPT can be wrong at all times. A sprite, two-dimensional image. I just want to know why it's called sprite specifically. Reflect the idea of something that is small, movable, and can appear and disappear. Oh, really? Akin to mythical sprites or fairies. So it's very lightweight. It doesn't carry anything else except for its image, I guess. It doesn't actually have any mouse, that's true, because even in the physics part of the game, like a sprite doesn't have any mouse at all. It's just cool. That's interesting. Historical small movable graphical elements. Cool. That's interesting, because I didn't really understand why it's called sprite. Right, so now we have sprites folder, and that's the folder where I will want to generate, where I will want to export this image to. So let's export this at 1x scale is fine. Export to, oh, it's already the right folder. Let's see. The only downside now is that, so if I export this, it will create a new folder here, but that's fine. Let's just deal with that. It's a 1x sprite. Now, I think all I need to do is move this onto this. There you go. Oh, it's very big. Let's just scale it down to 0.1. And this is basically the player. It's a piece of code. It's ethereal. It's not, it doesn't have any physical meaning. It doesn't have any mouse. It doesn't whatever. But it's capable of running its code on something. Now, to keep things simple, I will first write code to move this thing around on the player, even though later on we will have to move that code to the actual device that the player is controlling, but let's just do it step by step. So that's it. So now it has a sprite. We can now go to scripts. Oh yeah, I just need to attach this script as well. I'm correct. So now this script is attached to the player game object as a script component. And now we can open up the script in VS Code and start changing things. Oh yeah, okay, so I added this sprite and that is now picked up as changes, but I will not commit this. Will I commit this as a separate commit just for this small thing? No, I will just commit it as like one thing where I can move the player. I need to go and check how we get input, because as far as I remember from the tutorial, there's like an input system that exists, but that practically nobody uses anymore. And there's like a package that we need to install that is a new, more updated. Oh, this is still playing. Let's see. Let's just check. Setup input system. Right.
Our controller input. I'm going to jump over to package manager. So making sure I'm on Unity registry, I'm going to search for input system. If you don't.
All right, package manager. Window, package manager, input. Wait, not in project, unit registry, input, install. Right, let's install it and listen.
Don't have it installed already, then click install. That will give you this fancy warning. Click yes, we're okay with all that stuff, and that will cause Unity
Once it's installed, we should be able to attach a certain player input component to our player. Is it installed? No, it's still installing. Oh. I know from the tutorial there's two external packages that are basically usually replaced from the start, which is the input system and the camera system. But we'll get to the camera later. Oh, you can't see the bar. This project uses a new input system, but the native platform backends for the new input system are not enabled in the player setting. Do you want to enable the backends? Doing so will restart the editor. Yeah, sure. That's, I think they said just say yes. My editor will shut down. Save, yes please. Thank you for asking, because I did not save before.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do here is create actions. Click on that. That will
Create actions.
I don't have a folder for this at the moment.
Okay. Like a more space lo-fi. There we go. So that rebooted. I need to go back to my player. Oh, still not done. When there's certain progress bars now showing for me and it doesn't show on the stream, so that's why sometimes I'm waiting for something that is not visible on the screen. That's done now. So it said that I should be able to find something like input, player input manager or input. Say input manager or input. Let's go back here.
Add component, input, player inputs, what we're looking for.
Player input, so not manager. Okay, she was all gonna do the wrong thing. Player input. Okay. Yes, let's close everything that I don't need.
Actions, click on that. That will ask where would you like to save it. I don't have a folder for this at the moment, so new folder. I'm going to put this into input system. I think it's a nifty place for that.
Input system. Oh. Yeah, so as far as I remember, instead of like, I think that the native input system just gets like certain axes like horizontal, vertical, and you can convert it into movement. But I think the new input system has like where you just define like moving is these combinations, and then you can make like a function that just says when moving, and it doesn't matter what the key is, so you don't have to register certain keys in the code. You just have to register whether or not, according to whatever you set in this menu, what is moving, and you don't have to think about the code what key that is. You just say if the player is trying to move, and then you can change the keys at any point and the code will not suffer from that. Meaning that, yeah.
Double click on the folder, save. If you get an error, that's okay, that'll go away shortly. See if we can find where that ended up. So we have our input system. There we go, we've got our Tailvania. I didn't do do a very good job of renaming it, did I? I just clicked enter. But Tilevania is okay. Could probably rename it input actions, but I'm just going to have the one here, so it doesn't matter so much. Back over to the player. Now we need to make sure we drag that over into the action so it knows what we are actually doing. I'm going to double click on that to open it up.
I need to... Wait, but it's already there. Where did you move it in?
The Tilevania is okay. We could probably rename it input actions, but I'm just going to have the one here, so it doesn't matter so much. Back over to the player. Now we need to make sure we drag that over into the action. So
For some reason, I probably already... I would like to rename it though. Oh, it automatically renames that. That's fine. Cool.
so it knows what we are actually doing. I'm going to double click on that to open it up to see what's going on here. The action's already set up, move, look, and fire. We're going to be using move a bunch in the next couple of videos. And then after that, we'll also be wanting to be able to use jump. We have a fire in here. We're not going to use fire for jumping because it's, well, you know, fire is fire and jump is jump. We might
Right now, I don't need any of those. I just need to move.
a jump action. I'm going to click on the plus button here.
I don't need that.
Let's jump. Add is in there already. Because we've created jump, it's sitting here as an on jump. Now, just to illustrate this
Yeah, I know. So that's the thing. Now you can just...
folder, I was too hasty with my clicking, wasn't I? I'll call this scripts.
Yeah, so usually you make your scripts folder. I just did it from the start because I usually like to keep things structured and tidy. Although I'm sure there will be moments where I'll just start
While I'm here, I've been working in
messing things up, but then I usually go back to refactor things.
jump up to the prefab, under overrides, apply all, and then the player input and the player movement script will be applied to the prefab. Now let's open up our player movement script.
I'm not using prefabs yet.
Get ourselves set up and ready, and then in the next lecture we'll actually be making him move.
Yeah, so actually I think I know what to do here. So let's just try to do what I want to do and we'll see if that works. So the player, where are you? Transform. Let's put you again at 0, 0. Just, I like things to be at numbers. Now we go to Unity, and as far as I understand, we can now say on move. Yeah, so please note that I'm using Copilot just to check if it's on actually. Yeah. So if you see certain completions happening like this, for example, player is moving, this is what I mean, where certain gaps in knowledge and also just speed, like things go way faster using Copilot. So that's why for someone who's not that good at typing, for one, I'm not good at typing fast. I make a lot of typos. That's very helpful for someone like me. But also, just for someone who doesn't really necessarily have all of the syntax in its head, but I do know what I want to do. I know how to solve the problem. I know what I want to do. It's very helpful. So let's just see if that works already. So basically, I think if I just go back, yeah, every time you go back from VS Code to Unity, there's this loading step. You will see, and again, you don't see it right now, but for me, there's a loading bar. Right. I think if you press play, there shouldn't be any bugs yet because I haven't really coded many things, so hopefully there aren't any bugs. The only thing that should happen is if I press one of my keys that are linked to moving, there you go. Player is moving, player is moving, player is moving. Oh, you can't see my, okay, wait, let me go. Oh, there you go. So if I press, oh, that's actually a downside. So I set this up wrong, I guess. Because you in the stream will never see my debug console while I'm in the window of playing. That's a bit annoying. Can I make... Like I can move it, oh, I can move it up there. But is that actually better? No, the game is so small. Okay, so just like every time I press I can clear this. Every time I press one of the move buttons, and there you go. So we just log, but we're not actually moving. Right. So now let's go back here. And this is again where I'll show you how I used Copilot to just let it do things. I think, let me just try something. If I just press enter, I wonder if it will already try to autocomplete. No, it's not. So I will make a comment, move the player left and right. No, well, move the player. Let's give it a minute. Okay. Oh, there it is. Transform, player transform, get component transform. Let's press enter. Player transfer position is new vector 3, planet position x plus 1, y, player transfer position z. But I think I'm missing something here. I think there should be like, I think I'm missing an input value. All right, we'll have to go back to the tutorial because there's, of course, obviously we're missing the actual information of how much we're moving or what the input is.
Be called when the player put it into a variable. This corresponds to whether you're pushing right or left, up or down.
Vector 2.
How do we find what move input is? Well, we can put some information in our onMove method that's a message and is going to be getting called when the player makes a change to the key binding that we've got. And we need to get some information when that is called. And the information we need is an input value. We need a particular value, and we'll just name this value. So the type is input value. We're giving it the name of value. And then we want to store our value.
It doesn't know what this is. So Copilot did it correctly. Yes, let's see. Let's import the correct thing. There you go. Quick fix. Again, I don't need to care about this. It just does whatever's wrong. Let me just delete all of this again. Let's see what it does now. See, vector 2. Sure, log it. No, move the player. Just do it. Yeah, so you always have to check this because it did something wrong here. So it put the Y on the third column, which is just weird why it did that. So that's one thing. So again, like I don't want to like keep saying that these AI tools are like the one thing to end all things, because I see it just made a mistake. So you always still have to remain vigilant and check the code that is being written here. Transform position plus equals new vector. I don't even know if that's gonna work though. Let's just try it. So the code is saying the position is your old position plus some new vector based on the input. Well, sounds like it makes sense. So just to be clear also, we're moving things around. Oh, there you go. Yeah, it works. See? But you also see that it just sets its position, right? So this is what I was saying, like you can move around like this, but this is completely not linked to any physics. This is not with forces and gravity and friction and whatnot. It's just saying like if I press 1 to the side, just move it there and it does it instantly. So that's not really what we want. So going back to the code is like move the player smoothly. Let's see if that helps it. Let's just look at what they do here.
Value that we're methods, particular value, debug.log. What do you think we're going to look? My apologies if you were yelling at the screen while I was doing that. A little bit rusty today, not paying attention. And as we've done in previous lectures. Pipe, rigid, body, 2D. Don't forget the 2D. I often forget this on our player to make the player move around. What's the core movement thing that physics applies to?
Oh yeah, so they're gonna do it using physics anyway, which means that we need to add like a physics component to it, Because if you don't have a physics component, it can't use physics. So in this case, it's a rigid body 2D. Oh, did you see that, by the way? I just did it and my thingy fell down because gravity started working in on it. So that's something, let's see. Oh, yeah, this is an annoying thing. Yeah, I keep forgetting that. If you do things while you press play and it all gets...
Play around. It is a rigid body. So if you know how to do that, pause the video and do that now. And if you're thinking, what's Rick talking about? Let's do that together. So I need to create a very...
See, I don't like these small letters. I just want to...
Don't forget the 2D. I often forget that. Also, there's not a capitalization on the B, which I mess up as well at times.
Oh,
Actually, I'll rename this my rigid body so that it doesn't complain. Sometimes it doesn't like when you just do rigid body, because it thinks you're referring to something else. So my rigid body and semicolon. Now within start, what do we need to do? We need to my rigid body
velocity. See, now this is different now because you're giving it a velocity. So you're really using physics. You're just not...
parentheses semicolon. Okay, now we've got a rigid body. What do we need to do? Well, we need to create a run method. We need
So it says that I need to get it at start. Like this function will get the component on the play. It will get a component that is present on the game object where this script is attached to, and it will find based on its type or name. So it will find one or more rigid bodies, but usually you only have one, I think, and it will attach it to that so that we actually can access it on the move here.
First of all, in update, I'm going to call the method run. I haven't created this yet. I'm saying run. What does run mean? Well, let's jump down right below on move. We will create ourselves a new method, void run parentheses curly braces. So let's start with a really simple implementation, and then we'll make it a little bit cleverer. So within here, what we're trying to do is say my rigid body dot velocity. That's how we're going to be moving around our character. Equals what? Well, we can just say for now equals our move input. That's our vector 2. Move input. Semicolon. Save that up. And then jump back into Unity. Click on play.
Oh yeah.
Here. Oh, we can go left, right, up, and down.
Ah, so they're splitting it up. I guess that's clever. Good for keeping functions small. So on move. So they're putting the input value here. Meaning that on move, all that on moves does is setting your input values, and then everything else happens somewhere else. So void move. There you go. I don't think that's necessary. Can't it just be input value? Apparently not. Because you're not of the same type. Now we need to call it here.
Excellent. But it's kind of weird. The player's floating, which we don't want, and the player's moving kind of slow, which we don't want, and the player's actually being able to fly up and down. We only want the player to be able to move up and down when they're on a ladder. Let's tidy up our run method in here to be a little bit more sophisticated. So rather than just straight up move input, let's create ourselves a new variable.
Oh, I understand. Because this is a vector 2D. And then, yes, that's better. Because then it's already, yes, okay, I understand. So now the conversion to vector 2 happens in this function, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. And then you're only working with vectors at that point. So that's better, yeah, I agree. Push body input value, right. I guess now they're gonna start talking about adding velocity or speed.
And that equals, and we know we can't just say that equals 1 and 3, because Unity was, I don't know what you're talking about here, 1 and 3, what does that mean? So we need to say, well, I'm going to give you two values, and it will be in a vector 2. So new vector 2, we cast it to a vector 2, and then player velocity knows what it is that it's supposed to be receiving, what these numbers are that it's getting and putting in its vector 2 values. So what I'm going to do on the x
Const.
input, that's currently a vector 2, remember?
And also, as far as I know, you can do this, and which makes it available for you to change in the inspector.
So we don't want that. We want something different in here. We don't want the player to be able to push up and down unless they're on a ladder, and that will be in a different method called climb ladder. We don't want that in run. So now I'm just going to
Yeah, so there's a difference though between what they want to do and what I want to do. So they are restricting you from moving in the Y direction, but in our case, that's not a restriction. So I wanted to be able to move in any direction, and I will restrict that based on the device itself. So the devices will dictate whether or not you can actually move up or down or left or right. That's something for later. I think this should actually work right now. And I think that once we get that moving, we've done a few things in the stream, and I'll probably stop streaming for, well, maybe not for today, but at least for the stream. Okay, so you can see it falling. That's because of gravity. But I can give it velocity now. Yeah, there you go. See? So that's working. I can move it around. It is falling because of gravity, so we'll disable that, especially because the player should definitely not be... The player is just a piece of code, so it doesn't get pulled down by gravity. But actually, for the rest, it seems to be working. I will actually increase the scale a little bit, just because otherwise it's not that visible. At least not in the game editor. Alright. So just to be clear, this is still... This is using physics to some extent, but it's still giving the object a set velocity rather than pushing against it with a force that then leads to velocity. So there's still a third way of making things move. You can do it, like I said, you just set its position, which completely does not require any physics at all. You're just saying, well, now you're here, and if I push left, you will move 1 unit to the left. Now what we're doing is we're setting the velocity based on the input, but that also means that when we don't give any more input, there is no more velocity, because when we stop giving input, the input is 0, right? The input is set back to the 0, and then there's no more velocity, so it also stops. However, if you would do it with forces, you can push it, but when you stop pushing it, that doesn't mean the object will stop moving, because if you push an object and you stop pushing it, it will still move for a little while based on the physics until friction or gravity or whatever stops it from moving. And I think this is the most important decision. I'm definitely not gonna move it by positions, right? But the question is, like, do I want to use physics in terms of, like, when you stop pushing the button, do I want the object to stop moving, or do I want physics to still, like if you were driving a car, if you stop pushing the gas pedal, the car is still going to move. And that's more realistic. And I think I wanted like the realistic way. So you would have to oppose the force by braking. And I think that can lead to much more interesting situations where you're like, oh, I'm way too fast and I can't brake too fast enough, and you crash into something. As opposed to, like, I guess, like Super Mario games, where if you don't push the button to the left, it stops walking to the left, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but... And I think maybe this is where I'll stop streaming for this episode. So we quickly recapitulated everything about what I want the game to be. We made our first sprite in Adobe Illustrator using generative AI, which gives us something that obviously it looks terrible. I mean it looks decent. It looks like something, but it's definitely not what it needs to be in the end. But anyways, it's more fun for me to continue development when I have something. So when I make when I made my web application, I always do some styling first, because if I'm just working with very abstract shapes, I just don't enjoy the process anymore. So that's why I really enjoy being capable of making something that looks like something pretty decent immediately from the bat and move on with that. Then we made our player component that is now capable of taking input actions from the keyboard and move it around. So that's where we're at right now, and that's, I think, where I'll stop the stream. If I can check, where can I see like in streaming for an hour? Yeah, that's good. That's good to stop. So that's where we are. So again, we've used ChatGPT to learn about why sprites are called sprites, which I also enjoy. It's very cool to use that. Of course, you could have also used Google, but I like talking with ChatGPT. It's always interesting to have a conversation and to ask these types of questions. We used AI to generate some sprites. We used Copilot to generate some code for us, and we did have to make quite a bit of corrections, but you will see that once we need to do a lot more coding, then stuff is going to go really fast, especially when you're like, let's say you make a new variable here. You see like this and this, it did it all automatically. I don't have to type all of that, and I just don't like typing. So for me, it's very useful to just be able to skip all of that extra typing, like const float player speed. I did all of that automatically, and I don't have to do that. So that's nice. All right, great. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again and continue our journey on making my dream video game.